Mid last year when we first saw pictures of this thing, when Bunker King first started showing off pictures of it, they were really kind of touting just how small it was gonna be. And it's really hard to tell from pictures and video, you know, just how small stuff is. And I really didn't believe them, right? I mean, most of these manufacturers just talk about like, you know, how their hopper is gonna be the smallest and lightest and feed the fastest, and it's like the best thing ever. So before we get like really into this, a little bit about Bunker King. So Bunker King started, I believe, in the late 90s by Alex and Max Lindquist, two Swedish guys that played professionally in Sweden for a team called Joy Division. Joy Division was very, very popular for a long time. They made mainly soft good stuff, made like headbands and barrel covers and just apparel kind of stuff. Didn't make stuff for a very long time. Came back, I think, in 2011, maybe 2010, 12, somewhere in there. We're making packs, barrel covers, tank covers, small stuff. And then Virtue actually purchased them a few years ago. When Virtue purchased them, we kind of saw an uptick in the products they were offering. They started offering more packs. They came out with the Command mask, a mask that I reviewed recently, and I like the thing a lot. And then now we have the Control Hopper. Picking the thing up and holding it, it is a very, very small hopper. There's also other small hoppers in the market, like that HK Army Speed is also very small, but they're kind of smaller in like different ways. The Speed is very short and has like an overall compact size, right? Like the actual volume of the hopper is small, but it's still really tall. So the most important part about, you know, playing paintball is not getting shot. And when you're shooting at guys, having that tall hopper just makes you a larger target. So having a smaller frontal area like the Control has in comparison definitely to the HK Army Speed is going to be an advantage because the overall frontal profile is just smaller. It makes you a smaller target. So I say even though the Speed is really small and the Control is really small, their sizes are very, very similar. Like if we could, I don't know, make them displace water or something like that and actually measure the size difference, I would say that they'd be very similar. If you've ever held a die rotor, LTR, or the original rotor, I would say the Control is about 15% smaller than those hoppers, and then maybe about 10% smaller than the die rotor R2. I like kind of comparing the rotors to the Control because they're kind of similar in shape. They both kind of have that like rounded, I don't know, organic shape. So they're gonna be a little bit more easier to compare sizes. It's a very small hopper. I like this one. The Control also has the new lid style that the Spire 3 and the Spire IR have as well. So it has this new solid lid, that like just black lid that's not acrylic like old Spires or Spire IRs. I really like these lids. So you could use the same speed feed that's going on that Spire 3 or the Spire IR, or you could use the new Bunker King speed feed, the Enter speed feed. So I like these a lot. They work very well. They're using that spring that helps them come back into place just like the Crown 2 from the Spire 3. But the fingers are a little different. So instead of having the acrylic clear fingers like the Spire 3s have, these have like a harder plastic that's coated in rubber. So sometimes the acrylic fingers on the Spire 3 can break and crack if you get shot. These probably won't break if you get shot, but definitely having that rubber on the outside, you know, you can see that rubber is super stretchy and it's just really gonna break over time. But I don't think that matters really because the harder parts under that rubber are still close enough together that paintballs can't squeak out of there. So even if the thing wears out over 2 years of use and the rubber is completely gone, it's still gonna probably work perfectly fine. So to get inside the Control to see the internals, you pull this tab up on the back and the whole top shell just kind of goes forward. So it's going to be kind of a similar design to the die rotor and the TFX if you guys have taken those apart. It kind of has like a hook in the front that hooks under, and then you just kind of like latch that tab down in the back and the whole thing stays in place. And I'm a fan of this design. I really like the hoppers that split in half. I don't really like the Spire 3, how it has that like weird hinge thing. It just kind of feels weird and flimsy to me. And then I really don't like how on the Spire IR you can't remove the whole top shell without screws. And I really do think the hoppers that are like screwed together, like the Spire 3, how it has the hinge in the front, there are screws holding that thing together. The Spire IR has screws. The Halo 2, I mean, that's a cheap hopper, but still, I feel like all those hoppers that like have screws just kind of don't feel as solid. I much prefer the hoppers like the rotor or the Control that just kind of use friction, pressure, and like hooks or whatever to kind of just keep stuff together. I really like that feel and just think it's kind of a little bit more solid. I should say solid like the design, right? Like I like how it goes together solidly, but I definitely think that the Spire 3 is maybe a little bit more better built. I put quotes in that because like, I don't know, maybe it's kind of hard to tell. I think that the Spire, just because of the way that like it clamps together and has the like color ring around the outside, kind of makes the hopper feel a little bit more like stable or sturdy or something, because when you definitely squeeze on the Control, there's for sure more flex in like the whole hopper in general. but maybe like 10% more flexy or something like that. Like, it's not a big deal. Most people aren't gonna notice it, and most people are probably gonna say that it's just as durable. So that top shell comes off super easy, but you can also remove the internals very easy, just like you could really on the Spire 3 and that Spire IR. But on the control, it's held in by magnets. So it just pops out very easy. You know, you just really kind of pull the tray right out. You can see those magnets right there that are helping hold the thing in place. And it's held in place very well. Like I was, you know, shaking this thing around pretty violently, and the tray did stay in place. It has fallen out, you know, I can get it to fall out, but only when the top shell's off. When the top shell is on, it kind of helps sandwich the tray in there, and then that tray's not moving around at all. It's just a very easy to take out. That makes changing batteries, just cleaning stuff really easy. And you can see that it is the Spire 3 internals. So it has very similar and those very simple internals, just like the Spire 3s. The Spire 3 internals are very good. They're extremely consistent, very reliable, and then are feeding fairly quick. I say fairly quick because really that's the only gripe, really. I mean, people's major concern or like complaint with the Spire 3 or the Spire R is they just don't feed that quick. They're feeding in like 18-ish balls a second, maybe 17, maybe not 18. But with the control, one of the things they tried to do was make it feed a little bit quicker. They did that by cutting some of the material off this drive cone. Just makes that cone lighter because every time the loader's feeding, that cone spins up. So the lighter we can make that thing, the quicker and more responsive it should feed. They've also changed the software to make it Advanced I don't know, what the hell is it called? Enhanced Proactive Feeding Logic. But I think the main reason it's coming with new software, or we're seeing this like advertised as new software, is because they've removed the gyroscope from the front like the Spire 3 has. I think removing the gyroscope just makes it cheaper, right? I mean, there's less parts, less things to worry about, so it's cheaper to manufacture and less parts to break. I actually feel like it's more responsive, right? Like when I tap on the front of this control, I feel like it's slightly quicker and slightly more responsive. I don't know if that's because of the software or maybe using like better gyros now in the thing or something, but I do think it's like, I don't know, slightly quicker or slightly more responsive maybe in the Spire 3. I don't know. It could be me just like wondering if it's quicker and then just like pretending in my mind it's quicker. I don't know. It's also really easy to adjust the settings. So there's two buttons on the bottom of this thing, the power button and then the configure button. You just, turn the hopper on by holding the power button down, hold the configure button, and then you can scroll through all those settings and then the LED will tell you what settings you're in. It's also kind of handy that they've written on the bottom of the board where the settings are. It just makes changing settings really easy. So if for some reason, like I did here, you want to turn off the LED, or increase speed sensitivity, or whatever you're gonna do, it just makes it simpler to change settings. You probably also notice those like rampy deals on the tray of the control. Those ramps just kind of help feed extra paintballs into that raceway or like the feeding area on the control. They're for sure useful. So if you do not have the spring ramps on, I definitely found that like if you're just sitting there shooting and maybe not like running around and like, jostling the hopper around a bunch, you can definitely find paint pool in the front of this thing. So I found like at about 30 to 40 paintballs is kind of when you kind of had to like tilt it back a little bit maybe to get that paint to roll back to the hopper or to the back of that little feed area. And that's where those spring ramps come in, right? You add that spring ramp to the front and then it kind of like helps push that paint back for you. So they don't come with the control. It's definitely something you have to buy separately. Definitely something I'd probably recommend if you're getting the control. They're only 12 bucks, but it kind of sucks they don't come with them, like the Spire 3 is. Another optional upgrade that I really like a lot is the N-Charge battery. Really, you can get the N-Charge for the control hopper or any of the Virtue hoppers. It's a $50 lithium-ion battery, charges via USB, and it's good for about 20,000 shots. I've got one on a Spire 3. I've never let it die. So I don't know, I just always like kind of keep the thing topped up and charged so I don't run out of batteries. I like it for that reason. I always kind of know that my hopper's full because I charged it the night before. The biggest feature of the control, the aim angle indicator. So what? An aim angle indicator? So the idea is that the control can detect the angle of the hopper and then, in turn the barrel, and it indicates what angle the hopper is at by an LED strip on the back of the loader. So one of the things in paintball that we do is really repetitive is shoot off the break, right? Say you're in the back center and you're trying to shoot the snake guy every time. Like you're gonna point the gun at the same spot every time. It's a very repetitive motion. So if you can have something on your gun that's telling you if it's too high or too low, it would be very, very useful. I'd find that useful for guys shooting off the break. Say you're like running and shooting at something and you're not sure like If you're shooting low or high, the hopper could help you tell that. It could also help you if you're not good at running and shooting, right? You could just do some really slow running and shooting drills where you're holding your gun and just watching the indicator and kind of seeing if it goes up or down, because you want to keep that gun as flat as possible. You don't want it like rocking all over the place. You're just not going to hit anything. So I've been like thinking about a way to like show this well, but we're gonna do it. So I'll just kind of show you what it looks like. So turning hopper on, whoop, yeah, I guess hold the button down. Hopper on, we're gonna make it stop spinning. So you can see on the back of there how it's green because I'm at the right angle. But if we tilt it down, it goes red, and then some green because we're at the correct angle, and then red again. It's also really easy to program that too. So it's not like stuck at that angle. So to program, you literally just turn the hopper on, put it at the angle you want, and just press the power button one time. It'll blink green to let you know it saved the angle. So now every time you go back to that correct angle, it'll be green. If you go above or below that, it'll go to those red marks. And it will only go to certain angles though. You can go 0 to 90, so you can't like shoot backwards or like into the ground. It's only gonna work at 0 to 90 degrees. It's just interesting. Like, I don't know, I'd be very interesting for people that are like shooting off the break a lot. Maybe, you know, you're running and shooting a lot. Just having an extra training tool would be kind of interesting. And the thing does work very well. Like, it's really easy to program. Sensitivity seems perfect, seems consistent. It's pretty interesting. I don't know though. It's not for me because I don't care if I'm good at paintball. Like, I'm just there to have fun. I'm not out there trying to get better. But if you're trying to get better, it could be useful. So I like the control a lot. It's a very good hopper. I mean, it's lightweight, it's small. Having the Spire internals makes it feed consistent, makes it feed well. Lightening up that drive cone, I think, makes it feed a little bit quicker. But it's just weird, right? I mean, Virtue have two hoppers that are kind of the same thing, right? The Spire 3 and now the Control have very similar internals. So you can kind of say they're gonna feed and perform the same. It's just the Control has a few added features with that aim indicator, and I don't know, it comes apart a little bit different, we'll say, but it is more money. I mean, you are paying that $225 for like that base color, $235 if you want a black one, and then $250 if you want the camo version. And it does not come with the spring ramps. So it is gonna be more expensive if you want the spring ramps in like, say, a crazy color, but I don't know if there's really that much difference between the two. If you want that like aim indicator, get the Control. If you don't, buy a Spire 3.